Welcome back here, partners. Teresa Youngstrom here. Hey, what do we do for executives when they get dementia? You know, gosh, I was reading an article the other day just about executives retiring and how difficult that is because, gosh, they typically can't even retire because they don't know what to do with themselves. They're so used to working so intensely. And man, when they get dementia, we have a lot of challenges on our hand. So I want to talk to you about a situation about an executive. I got a call. Great. That's what happens. And this wonderful man, we'll call him Bill. Bill was placed in an assisted living memory care. And it was a beautiful, beautiful place. Huge room. I mean, it was a beautiful place. His family had gone to great lengths. They didn't know what to do with him at home, but they had tons of money, and so they had the most beautiful place, and that was the situation. And he had some private duty, which was great, but there still were challenges. And what they found is that in the morning, when the caregivers came in the morning, the room was destroyed. Why do you think? I mean, why do you think? Why do you think his room would be destroyed in the morning? Well, he was working. He was busy. He was looking for contracts. He was looking for files. So he wanted to go to work. And so they thought what they would do, the family and the unit, before they called me, they went ahead and brought in his desk and his chair, and someone had told them, well, try and set it up so it's like his office at home. So they brought in bookshelves, they brought in his desk and his chair and set up things. And I think that was a great idea. And they made it look like his space at home, which I think was a great idea. So they tried that and then come in the morning. And what do you think? Okay, we still had a big mess in the morning. He's still going through things. He's still looking for things and still very confused. And he's not able to complete the task at hand. So he's trying to work. He's not able to complete the task. He doesn't want to come out of his room and join the other folks because he doesn't feel like them. He doesn't feel like he's where they are and doesn't acclimate to the group. So we've got to come up with another plan. So I get a call and say, we've got this gentleman. He's an executive. I'm like, tell me more. Well, he was high end. And I said, did he always, what was his office like? Well, he always had lots of staff. He managed big companies, lots of companies, traveled a lot, always had. I said, did he have office managers? Did he have, personal, people with him all the time, taking notes or managing things? Oh, yeah, all the time. He had all that stuff. I'm like, okay, something this old nurse doesn't know anything about, but I had an idea. And so what we did was we hired a gentleman to kind of act like his personal assistant. And so we had a gentleman come in and we put him in professional attire and come in. He had a notebook, he had pen, he looked the part. And we introduced him as the hired personal assistant for Bill and let them talk a little bit. And the first time Bill started to get a little anxious, we had the gentleman pull out his notebook and say to Bill, I can take care of that for you. And he wrote something on the notepad and left the room. And then he came back and he said, I want you to know that we handled that and it went quite well. And he sat down and we just tried it. It's a long shot. You never know, guys. These situations are not perfect, but all you can do is try and try again. And it started working. And there were a couple of errors, but there were more successes than errors. What we found is that Bill wasn't resting at night because his brain was just so busy thinking about all these tasks that were undone in his mind. The other thing was his communication skills were really, really failing. And so you couldn't always understand what he was trying to tell you. And so you kind of had to, you had to just go with an affirmation. Oh, okay, okay, okay. Thank you, sir. And they would write things down as if they understood. And what worked best is if you wrote something down, gave an affirmation, thank you, sir, I'm on that. And if you would then leave the room, because then he would forget what he told you. Come back 10 minutes later, and frequently come back with something. Maybe you come back with his favorite cup of coffee or his favorite soda or a newspaper or something of that nature. And then it would shift his brain as to what you were supposed to be doing anyway. So it's not a perfect system, but I gotta tell you, it helped put a lot of his anxiety and a lot of his needs to bed and start working. We did have to provide care 24/7, okay? And everybody had to show up in a professional attire with a notebook. They had to be trained well, and the ones that weren't willing to play this game, play the part, were let go and were given a different client. You know, they they didn't fit this type of care client and were given someone else in the the company I worked for, and we would get someone else who fit the bill. And finally, we had a good team that could work with Bill 24/7, and he was able to rest because we had a team who was always on guard, always helping him to do his tasks. And he stopped rooting through his files. And just because what we would find in the morning is he would have pulled out a drawer and just papers would be everywhere of him rooting through files because he's looking for a contract. He's looking for something that he may or may not. We really didn't even know if he could still read. His his verbal skills were really tough too. So the relationship started to grow, which was really great. And we had an idea for the caregivers to start reading the newspaper to him. Now we had to coach the caregivers to read the newspaper in a certain way. You don't need to read about all the bad things going on in the world, but there are a lot of great things going on in the world too. And so read the great things that are going on in the world and the great things that are going on. You know, and so to be selective, I'm just saying about what you were reading. And Bill really, really enjoyed that. He was someone who read the newspaper every morning from front to back. And so that really helped him so much. And honestly, you could read it in the morning and you could read it again at dinner time. And that made him very, very happy. It was something he really enjoyed. We learned what kind of music he enjoyed, and we learned to help him start to relax. And so in that season of busyness with someone with brain change, if we can figure out what it is they are stressed about, what they did for a living, where they're struggling, and we can get creative and implement care. Oh my goodness, you guys, it can be so good and just absolute game changer for these individuals living with brain change. Is it perfect? Never. Will there be occasionally will caregiver not work out and someone get sent away? Absolutely. Will they fire someone? Absolutely. Might happen. But boy, we've seen great successes. And is it worth trying every day? So I just want to give you hope. I want to give you hope. Let's not just medicate these folks down or shelter them away. All right. I want to give you hope that every situation is worth investigating creative ways on how to come alongside, join them on the journey. They're worth it. Okay. And if the table was turned, we'd spend time getting creative on your situation, on how to come up with a great idea on how to love you through your season of memory loss, and how we could come alongside and join you on the journey with your brain failure. Okay. To help you live your best life, whether your brain's working great or whether it's not working great at all. Okay? This is a nice short story from Teresa Youngstrom. You got this.